In the Florida Keys, a desperate single father was about to discover that his dead uncle's inheritance was far more than rusted metal. Tyler Coleman wasn't your typical struggling teacher. For years, he'd taught history's greatest mysteries while fighting to keep his daughters fed. When he pried open hidden floorboards and found $280 million in stolen masterpieces, he walked straight into a deadly confrontation between FBI agents, criminals, and his own crumbling principles. What began as hope for survival became an impossible choice that would define his legacy forever. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Tyler Coleman's red pen hovered over another poorly researched essay about the American Revolution when the knock came. 3 sharp raps that made him glance at the wall clock. 10:47 p.m. Too late for neighbors. Too early for emergencies. He set down the essay, another student confusing the Declaration of Independence with the Constitution, and moved through his cramped San Diego apartment. The living room doubled as his home office. Papers spread across the coffee table like debris from a shipwreck. Through the thin walls, he could hear Mrs. Patel's television. Some late-night talk show laugh track punctuating his isolation. The courier stood in the hallway, clipboard extended. Tyler Coleman? That's me. Certified letter. Need your signature. Tyler signed, noting the return address. Whitmore and Associates, Attorneys at Law. Key West, Florida. His stomach tightened. Legal correspondence never brought good news. Not anymore. Back inside, he tore open the envelope. The letterhead was formal, the language carefully neutral. Dear Mr. Coleman, we regret to inform you of the death of Gerald Sawyer, your maternal uncle. As executor of his estate, we are writing to inform you that you are the sole beneficiary of his will. Tyler's hand trembled slightly. Gerald Sawyer. He hadn't thought about his uncle in years. His mother's younger brother, the one she refused to discuss. The family ghost who'd vanished when Tyler was still in elementary school, leaving behind only uncomfortable silences and his mother's tight-lipped refusal to explain why. The estate consists primarily of a vessel, a 1973 yacht named the Serendipity, currently docked at Shores Marina in Key West. Mr. Sawyer's other assets were minimal. A yacht. Tyler would have laughed if the sound wouldn't wake his daughters sleeping in the next room. He owned a 12-year-old Honda with a check engine light that never turned off. The idea of inheriting a boat from an uncle he barely remembered felt like a cosmic joke. His phone buzzed. Jessica, of course. We need to talk about the tuition payment, she said without preamble. No hello. No acknowledgement that calling after 11 was intrusive. That was Jessica now, all business, all edges. It's late, Jess. Emma's program director called me today. You're 3 weeks behind. They're threatening to drop her from the special education track. Tyler pressed his palm against his forehead. The tutoring. He'd been juggling bills like a street performer, hoping nothing would drop. I'll take care of it. When? You said that last month. And Sophia's art program deposit is due next week. She got into Stanford's summer intensive, Tyler. Do you understand what that means for her college applications? He understood. He understood that his eldest daughter was brilliant, that she deserved opportunities he couldn't afford, that his ex-wife's new husband could write checks that would never bounce. I'm working on it. Jessica's sigh carried the weight of disappointment he'd come to know too well. I'm filing a motion for emergency custody review. I didn't want to, but Brad thinks. Brad thinks? Tyler repeated, the bitterness sharp on his tongue. Brad Reynolds, real estate developer. The man his wife had chosen over 15 years of marriage. Tell Brad he doesn't get a vote on my daughters. He's trying to help. Unlike you, he can actually provide stability. The judge is going to see that you took an unnecessary trip to Florida when... What trip? The lawyer called looking for you. Your school said you requested personal days. So instead of paying Emma's tutoring, you're taking vacations? Tyler looked at the letter again. A yacht. A dead uncle. A possible way out if he was lucky. If anything in his life had been lucky lately. It's not a vacation. It's an inheritance. From who? My Uncle Gerald. He died. Left me a boat. The pause stretched long enough that Tyler wondered if she'd hung up. The brother your mother never talked about? That uncle? Yeah. Is it worth anything? Always the bottom line with Jessica now. He remembered when she'd been different. When they'd been different. Young and idealistic, planning a life built on love rather than bank statements. I don't know. I need to go check it out. Tyler, if you're chasing some fantasy instead of handling your responsibilities. My responsibilities are keeping our daughters safe and loved. I've never missed that. The money. He stopped. The money was everything and nothing. Without it, he was losing them anyway. I'll call you tomorrow. He ended the call before she could respond. Before the anger could become something worse. The apartment was quiet again except for the television next door. Tyler moved to his daughter's room, easing the door open. Emma sprawled across her bed, stuffed animals arranged in careful patterns around her pillow. Her learning disability made simple tasks monumental efforts, but she faced each day with a smile that broke his heart. Sophia slept in the top bunk, her phone charging on the nightstand, college brochures stacked beside her lamp. He was failing them. Every month, the financial walls closed tighter. Every conversation with Jessica reminded him that love wasn't enough when the lights got shut off or the tutoring bills piled up. But a yacht, even a decrepit one, that might be worth something. The next morning, Tyler found Bobby under the hood of a Camry at his auto shop, grease-stained hands working with the precision of a surgeon. You look like hell, Bobby said without looking up. Didn't sleep. Jessica. Among other things. Tyler handed him a coffee. My uncle died. Bobby straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. The mysterious one. Your mom's brother? Left me a yacht in Florida. A yacht. Bobby's eyebrows rose. Like a real boat? Apparently. That's good, right? You could sell it, catch up on bills. Tyler shrugged. It's from the 70s. Probably worth scrap at best. But I need to go check it out. When? Tomorrow. I can get a cheap flight if I book today. Bobby studied him with the careful attention of someone who'd known Tyler through marriage, divorce, and everything between. They'd taught together once, before Bobby left education for entrepreneurship. Before Bobby built something stable while Tyler stayed trapped in a system that paid in good intentions rather than living wages. You want me to watch the girls? If you don't mind. Just for a few days. Maria loves having them over. You know that. Bobby tossed the rag aside. But Tyler, man, be realistic. A 50-year-old boat sitting in Florida? Don't get your hopes up too high. I'm not hoping for anything, Tyler lied. Just need to settle the estate. Bobby's expression said he recognized the lie but was kind enough not to press. Buried treasure would be nice though. Right? Pirates and gold doubloons. They both smiled, but Tyler felt the weight of impossibility pressing down. He wasn't going to find treasure. He'd find another burden. Another responsibility he couldn't afford. But what choice did he have except to go? That evening, Tyler sat his daughters down in the living room. Emma bounced with barely contained energy, while Sophia maintained the careful neutrality she'd perfected since the divorce. I need to go to Florida for a few days, he began. Why? Emma asked. Your great-uncle Gerald died. He left me a boat and I need to take care of some legal things. We have an uncle? Emma's eyes widened. Had. My mother's brother. You never met him. Sophia watched him with her mother's analytical gaze. Is this about money? 16 going on 40. Too smart for comfortable lies. It's about responsibility, Tyler said carefully. When someone dies, their affairs need settling. But might it help? Sophia pressed. With money. Tyler met his daughter's eyes. He'd never lied to them about their financial situation, but he tried to shield them from the worst of it. Clearly, he'd failed. I hope so, sweetheart. I really do. Emma moved to hug him, her faith absolute. Sophia's expression remained guarded, the way it had been since Jessica left, since their family fractured into before and after. You'll stay with Bobby and Maria, Tyler continued. Just a few days. Promise. Okay, Dad, Emma said. Sophia just nodded. After they went to bed, Tyler booked the cheapest red-eye he could find. The credit card warning about approaching his limit blinked across the screen, but he confirmed the purchase anyway. What was one more debt in the mountain he was climbing? The airport at midnight felt like purgatory. Fluorescent lighting, exhausted travelers, the smell of overpriced coffee and resignation. Tyler's carry-on held 3 days of clothes and a folder of legal documents from the lawyer. Everything he owned that mattered fit in his daughter's smiles. Everything else was just weight. At the gate, he texted Bobby. "Thanks for everything. Tell the girls I love them." The response came immediately. "They know. Good luck, brother." Maybe Gerald was secretly rich. Maybe, Tyler typed back, though he didn't believe it. The boarding call came. Tyler joined the line of passengers shuffling forward, each step taking him away from his daughters and toward a dead man's legacy. Whatever waited in Florida. Rust, debt, or something else entirely. It couldn't be worse than watching his life disintegrate one unpaid bill at a time. Could it? The plane's engines hummed to life. Through the window, San Diego's lights spread across the darkness like fallen stars. Tyler closed his eyes, exhausted and skeptical but clinging to the only thing he had left. Hope. Thin and fragile as tissue paper, but still hope. The wheels left the runway, and Tyler Coleman flew east toward the Florida Keys, toward a yacht named Serendipity, toward an uncle he'd never known and secrets his mother had carried to her grave, toward whatever inheritance truly meant. Tyler's hand tightened on the rental car's steering wheel as he navigated the overseas highway. The Florida sun beat through the windshield, turning the compact sedan into a mobile oven despite the air conditioning's valiant efforts. To his left, the Atlantic stretched toward infinity. To his right, the Gulf of Mexico shimmered in shades of turquoise that belonged on postcards rather than in his debt-ridden reality. Key West emerged from the heat haze like a mirage. Pastel buildings, palm trees swaying in the salt breeze. Tourists in flip-flops and sunburns wandering streets that smelled of fried seafood and sunscreen. It was beautiful in the way unattainable things often are, a paradise existing just beyond his financial reach. Shores Marina sat at the edge of town, away from the tourist attractions. Tyler pulled into a gravel lot dotted with sun-bleached trucks and followed hand-painted signs toward the docks. The air here carried a different quality, thick with brine and diesel fuel, underlaid with the particular rot that comes from things left too long in saltwater. A weathered building served as the marina office. Through its salt-stained windows, Tyler could see a figure moving inside. He checked his phone. No messages from the girls. Bobby had texted a photo. Sophia and Emma making pancakes in his kitchen. Flour dusting everything like snow. The image made Tyler's chest ache. He pocketed the phone and pushed through the office door. The man behind the counter looked like he'd been carved from driftwood. All hard angles and sun-darkened skin. Gray stubble covering a jaw that had seen its share of fights. His eyes, though, held an unexpected sharpness. They assessed Tyler with the kind of attention that suggested military training or hard-won survival instincts. "Help you?" The voice matched the face. Gravel and salt. "I'm looking for Alex Shore. I'm Tyler Coleman. I inherited Gerald's nephew." Not a question. The man straightened, and something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Maybe sympathy. "I'm Alex. Been expecting you." They shook hands. Alex's grip was firm, calloused, the handshake of someone who'd spent decades working with ropes and machinery. "I'm sorry about your uncle," Alex said, and it sounded genuine rather than perfunctory. Gerald was a good man. Tyler didn't know how to respond to that. His mother had never said Gerald was good. She'd never said much at all. Just that tight-lipped silence whenever Tyler asked about the brother in faded photographs. "I didn't really know him," Tyler admitted. "Most people didn't. He preferred it that way." Alex grabbed a key ring from a hook behind the counter. "Come on. I'll show you the Serendipity." They walked the dock in silence. Boats of varying sizes bobbed in their slips. Sleek fishing vessels, modest sailboats, a few impressive yachts that probably cost more than Tyler would earn in a lifetime. Alex led him past all of them, toward the far end where the dock grew more weathered and the boats looked less maintained. "Your uncle kept to himself," Alex said, breaking the silence. But he paid his slip fees on time. Never caused trouble. Sometimes we'd share a beer at sunset, talk about nothing important. He paused. He was carrying something heavy. You could see it in the way he moved, like a man with weights tied to his ankles. Tyler's historian instincts perked up. Heavy burdens. Family secrets. His mother's refusal to speak Gerald's name. It all connected to something. Some story that ended with a recluse dying alone in the Keys. Did he ever talk about why he came here? No, and I didn't ask. That's the unwritten rule in the Keys. People come here running from something or toward something. Either way, you don't pry. They rounded a corner, and Alex stopped. There she is. Tyler's last shred of hope died. The serendipity looked less like a yacht and more like a cautionary tale about neglect. Rust bloomed across her hull in orange-brown flowers. Barnacles crusted her waterline thick as armor. The once white fiberglass had weathered to a sickly gray-green, and her deck sagged in places that suggested structural rot beneath. A tattered canvas cover partially obscured the cockpit, flapping in the breeze like a surrender flag. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Jesus, Tyler breathed. Yeah. Gerald stopped maintaining her about 5 years back. Said there wasn't much point. Alex's tone carried something Tyler couldn't quite identify. Not pity. Something closer to understanding. Been trying to talk him into at least covering her properly, but he wouldn't hear it. Tyler did quick mental math. Scrap value, maybe $3,000 if he was lucky. Towing fees to get her to a salvage yard, probably half that. He'd flown across the country for pocket change. Mind if I go aboard? She's yours. Just watch your step. Those boards are soft in places. Tyler climbed onto the deck, testing each footfall. The wood groaned under his weight but held. Up close, the decay was even more pronounced. Hardware had corroded into abstract sculptures. The cabin door hung crooked on rusted hinges. Through the grimy windows, he could see shadows and shapes but nothing distinct. He tried the door. It resisted, then gave way with a shriek of protesting metal. The cabin's interior hit him like a physical thing. Stale air and mildew, the particular smell of spaces long sealed from sunlight. Tyler's eyes adjusted slowly to the gloom. Sparse furnishings. A small galley with a sink and camping stove. A navigation table covered in yellowed charts. Built-in bunks with thin mattresses that probably housed entire ecosystems of mold. But on the navigation table, catching a shaft of light through the dirty porthole, sat a photograph in a salt-stained frame. Tyler picked it up carefully. 2 children smiled at the camera. A girl of maybe 10 and a younger boy 7 or 8. They stood on a beach somewhere, the boy holding a sand dollar like a trophy. Tyler recognized his mother immediately, even across the decades. The same eyes. The same smile she'd had before cancer took her 5 years ago. The boy had to be Gerald. Younger. Innocent. Before whatever happened that made him disappear from family photos and conversations. Found something? Tyler hadn't heard Alex approach. He held up the photograph. Alex studied it, then nodded. He looked at that picture a lot, especially toward the end when the cancer got bad. You knew he was sick? Pancreatic. He told me about 6 months before he died. Said he had some affairs to settle. Alex's gaze sharpened. Said he had a nephew in California. A teacher. Good man who deserved better than the hand life dealt him. Tyler's throat tightened. Gerald had known about him. Had cared enough to track his life, even from a distance. There's something else you should know, Alex continued, his voice dropping. About 3 months back, a man came asking about Gerald. Well-dressed, European accent. Said he was an old friend, but... Alex shook his head. I've been around dangerous men. This one had that quality. The kind that smiles while deciding how to hurt you. What did you tell him? Nothing. Told him Gerald kept to himself, and I didn't know his business. Alex met Tyler's eyes directly. But he'll probably come back now that Gerald's dead. People who ask questions like that don't give up easy. A chill ran through Tyler despite the tropical heat. What kind of questions? About the boat mostly. Whether Gerald had family. Where his belongings were. Alex paused. Whether I'd ever seen him with anything valuable. The word hung in the air between them. Valuable. Tyler looked around the cabin again, seeing it differently now. Not just decay and neglect, but potential hiding places. Secret histories. I should let you sort through his things, Alex said, stepping back toward the door. Take your time. Marina's open till 9 if you need anything. And Tyler? He waited until Tyler looked up. Your uncle spent 30 years here. Whatever he was running from or protecting, it mattered enough that he gave up everything else. Just be careful. Alex left, his footsteps receding down the dock. Tyler stood alone in his dead uncle's yacht, holding a photograph of children who didn't know yet how complicated family could become. Outside, the Florida sun painted everything in golden light. Inside, shadows gathered in corners and under bunks. Somewhere in this floating wreck lay answers to questions Tyler hadn't known to ask. He set the photograph down gently and began to search. Tyler spent the first hour cataloging Gerald's possessions with the methodical attention he brought to grading essays. A Coleman camping stove. 3 cans of beans past their expiration date. A wind-up radio that no longer worked. Nautical charts marked with routes Gerald never sailed. Books, dog-eared paperbacks about art history, restoration techniques, museum security systems. That last detail nagged at Tyler's mind, but he filed it away. The heat inside the cabin grew oppressive as afternoon stretched toward evening. Sweat plastered Tyler's shirt to his back. He'd found nothing of value. Nothing that explained why a well-dressed European would come asking questions. Nothing that justified Gerald's 3 decades of self-imposed exile. He was about to give up when exhaustion made him sit heavily on the bunk. The floor creaked wrong. Tyler froze. He'd been a homeowner long enough to know the difference between normal settling and structural problems. This wasn't rot. This was something else. A hollowness where there should be solid wood. He stood, testing the boards with his foot. Most felt sound despite their age. But near the captain's quarters, a section gave that telltale hollow echo. Tyler knelt, running his fingers along the seams. His historian's eye caught what others might miss. The wood grain didn't quite match. Someone had replaced these boards, carefully but not perfectly. His pulse quickened. Tyler searched the cabin for tools, finding a rusty screwdriver in a drawer. He wedged it into the seam between boards and pried gently. The wood resisted, then gave with a groan that sounded almost reluctant. One board came up, then another. Beneath the flooring, Tyler found darkness and the smell of preserved air. He pulled out his phone, activating the flashlight. The beam illuminated a compartment roughly 4 feet square and 2 feet deep. Inside sat 3 climate-controlled cases, the kind museums used for transporting delicate artifacts. They looked expensive, professional, completely at odds with the yacht's decay. Tyler's hands shook as he reached for the first case. Its latches opened smoothly, well-maintained despite the years. Inside, wrapped in acid-free tissue paper, lay a painting. Even in the phone's harsh light, Tyler recognized quality. The brushwork was masterful, luminous, the kind of technique that couldn't be faked or mass-produced. He carefully lifted the edge of the tissue paper. A woman stared back at him from across centuries. Her gaze held secrets Tyler couldn't name. The style was unmistakable. The way light played across fabric, the subtle modeling of flesh tones, the sense of captured breath. Vermeer, or something painted exactly like a Vermeer. Tyler's mouth went dry. He taught art history units to his sophomores. Showed them slides of the masters. Vermeer had painted fewer than 40 works in his lifetime. Each one was catalogued, known, counted for, except for the ones that weren't. With trembling fingers, Tyler opened the second case. A landscape emerged, water lilies floating on a pond, light fracturing through leaves. The impressionistic style was immediately recognizable. Monet. But not just any Monet. The kind that belonged in climate-controlled galleries behind bulletproof glass. The third case held a dramatic scene, Caravaggio's signature use of light and shadow, a moment of violence frozen in oil and canvas. The painting practically vibrated with suppressed energy. Tyler sat back hard, his mind refusing to process what his eyes were seeing. These couldn't be real. They couldn't be here, hidden in a rotting yacht in the Florida Keys. It was impossible. But his phone was already in his hand, fingers moving on autopilot. He searched, stolen masterpieces. The results flooded his screen. Article after article, museum websites, FBI bulletins. And there, dated March 18, 1990, was the headline that stopped his heart. Boston Museum heist. $500 million in art stolen in brazen overnight robbery. Tyler's vision tunneled as he read. 13 pieces taken by thieves disguised as police officers. The largest art theft in American history. Decades of investigation. No arrests. No recovery. The stolen works included paintings by Vermeer, Rembrandt, Manet, Degas, and his phone nearly slipped from his sweating palms. Monet and Caravaggio. He looked at the paintings again, then back at the article's images. The descriptions matched. Every detail, every brushstroke he could see even in his phone's inadequate light. Tyler's breath came in short gasps. This wasn't possible. His uncle, quiet, reclusive Gerald, who'd lived alone on a decaying yacht, couldn't have been involved in one of the most infamous crimes in art history. Couldn't have spent 30 years living above $280 million in stolen masterpieces. But the evidence lay in his hands. A water-damaged journal rested beneath the third case. Tyler pulled it out with reverence reserved for archaeological artifacts. The leather cover was salt-stained and warped. He opened it carefully to the first page. Gerald's handwriting, precise, controlled, the letters of someone who thought carefully before committing words to paper. March 19, 1990. God forgive me for what we've done. The entry continued, but water damage had rendered most of it illegible. Tyler flipped through pages, finding sections that had survived better than others. Fragments of confession emerged like pieces of a shattered mirror. Never meant to be violent. They promised clean. Insurance would pay. Museums would recover. Victimless, they said. Tommy killed the guard. Just shot him. I saw it happen and I knew we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. Took the paintings and ran. Left Victor and the others. They'll kill me if they find me. But I can't let them have these. Can't let them destroy such beauty for money. Mom sent money again. She doesn't ask questions. She understands what it means to make one terrible choice and spend your life paying for it. Tyler's mother. She'd known. All those years of silence, of refusing to speak Gerald's name, and she'd known what he'd done. Known and helped him anyway. The journal's later entries grew more philosophical. Gerald writing about redemption, about whether sins could be forgiven if the sinner never stopped trying to atone. Pages dedicated to research about anonymous art returns, museum security protocols, ways to restore the paintings to their rightful places without destroying himself in the process. The final dated entry was from 6 months ago. The cancer is spreading faster than they thought. I have maybe a year. Need to finalize the plan. The paintings must go back. They've been prisoners here as surely as I have. Tyler will understand. He has to. He's a good man. Better than I ever was. He'll know what to do. Tyler read that passage 3 times. His uncle's faith in him feeling like weights being added to a scale already tipped toward breaking. A noise outside made Tyler's head snap up. Footsteps on the dock. He quickly closed the journal, his heart hammering. Through the cabin's grimy porthole, he saw Alex walking past, heading toward the marina office. Just Alex. Not whoever had come asking questions months ago. But that man would return. Alex had said so. And if he'd been searching for these paintings for 30 years, Gerald's death would bring him circling back like a shark scenting blood in the water. Tyler carefully rewrapped the paintings, placing them back in their cases. He lowered the cases into the compartment and replaced the floorboards, though his efforts to conceal them felt laughably inadequate now that he knew what to look for. His phone showed 3:47 a.m. He'd been on the yacht for hours, though it felt like minutes. The adrenaline that had sustained him was fading, leaving behind a trembling exhaustion and a fear that tasted like copper in his mouth. Tyler stepped out onto the deck. The Florida night was alive with sound, water lapping against hulls, the distant music from Duval Street, insects singing their endless songs. Above, stars scattered across the sky in patterns that had guided sailors for millennia. Somewhere up there, his mother and Gerald might be watching, might be waiting to see what Tyler would do with the impossible choice they'd left him. He pulled out his phone and called Bobby. It rang 4 times before his friend answered, voice thick with sleep. Tyler? What's wrong? Are the girls? They're fine. This isn't about them. Bobby, I need you to do something for me. Don't ask why. I need you to research the 1990 Boston Museum heist. Everything you can find. Articles, FBI reports, theories about who did it. Silence. Then, Tyler, what the hell is going on? I can't explain. Not yet. Please, just do this for me. Another pause, longer this time. Tyler could almost hear his friend's mind working through implications and concerns. Okay, Bobby said finally. But you're going to tell me everything when you get back. Tyler looked at the yacht, at the deck beneath which lay enough stolen art to solve every financial problem he'd ever had, or destroy his life completely. Yeah, he said quietly. Everything. He ended the call and stood alone in the darkness. A history teacher who just inherited history's biggest secret, wondering if Gerald's redemption might cost Tyler everything he had left to lose. Tyler sat in the law office of Whitmore and Associates watching a ceiling fan rotate in lazy circles. The attorney, a tired-looking man named Hendricks, pushed papers across the desk with the enthusiasm of someone processing his 1,000th estate that month. Sign here, initial here, date at the bottom. Tyler's pen moved mechanically. His mind was still on the yacht, on paintings worth more than he'd earn in 10 lifetimes, on Gerald's journal entry about Tyler being a good man who'd know what to do. Except Tyler had no idea what to do. The yacht's title transfers to you immediately, Hendricks droned. Slip fees are current through next month. After that, you'll need to arrange payment or relocation. There are salvage companies that handle these situations if you're not interested in. I'll handle it, Tyler interrupted. Thank you. Hendricks shrugged. 20 minutes later, Tyler walked out into the Key West heat, legally owning a floating crime scene. He drove back to the marina in a daze. Tourists filled the streets, sunburned and happy, living in a reality where the biggest concern was which beach bar to visit next. Tyler envied their ignorance. 48 hours ago, he'd been one of them, burdened but uncomplicated. Now he knew too much. At the yacht, he forced himself to go through Gerald's belongings systematically. The journal became his focus. He carefully separated pages stuck together by water damage, using techniques he'd learned from a museum curator who'd guest lectured his class years ago. Gerald's confessions emerged in fragments. June 1990. Victor keeps calling. Says he knows I'm alive. Says the paintings belong to all of us. But Tommy killed that guard. Shot him in cold blood when he didn't need to. I saw Victor's face after. He wasn't surprised. He'd expected violence. Maybe planned for it. They're not getting these paintings. Not to sell to criminals who don't care about beauty, only money. December 1993. Mom visited. Didn't ask about the boat or why I'm here. Just hugged me and cried. She knows. Maybe she's always known what kind of man her baby brother became. She slipped $500 into my jacket pocket when I wasn't looking. Pride says give it back. Survival says keep it. Kept it. March 2003, 13 years since the heist. FBI still lists it as active investigation. I researched anonymous art returns. It's possible. Museums want the pieces back more than they want revenge. But the moment I surface, Victor finds me. And Victor doesn't forgive betrayal. August 2015. Saw a documentary about the heist. They interviewed families of the security guards. The one Tommy killed had 3 kids. They showed his daughter talking about growing up without her father. Couldn't watch. Turned it off. But her face haunts me. Some sins don't wash away, no matter how long you live with them. Tyler's hands shook as he read. His uncle had been paralyzed, unable to return the art without risking his life, unable to keep it without destroying his soul. 30 years of purgatory in a rotting yacht. The later entries shifted tone. Gerald had started researching museum contacts, ethical art dealers, journalists sympathetic to anonymous restitution. He'd built a network over decades, preparing for the day he'd finally have the courage to act. Cancer had given him a deadline, an apparent motivation. January 2024. Dr. Martinez confirmed. Pancreatic. 6 months if I'm lucky. The irony isn't lost. Spent 30 years running from death, and it found me anyway. But maybe this is my chance. I can't take these paintings to hell with me. They need to go home. February 2024. Drew up plans. 3 contacts who can move the pieces discreetly. A journalist I trust to tell the story right. Not about theft but about redemption. About art returning where it belongs. About a man who made a terrible choice and spent his life trying to unmake it. March 2024. Getting weaker. Need to act soon. But Victor's people are asking questions again. Alex mentioned a European man came around. It's him. I know it. After all these years, he's still hunting. April 2024. Changed my will. Tyler gets everything. He's principled, intelligent. He'll understand that some legacies are burdens. That doing right isn't always simple. I never met him, but I've watched from a distance. He's the man I should have been. God willing, he'll finish what I couldn't. Tyler closed the journal as sunset painted the cabin in amber light. His phone buzzed. Bobby. Found what you asked for, his friend said without preamble. The 1990 Boston heist. 13 works stolen. Never recovered. FBI still investigates. Insurance consortium paid out $280 million. A pause. Tyler, why are you researching this? I can't explain yet. Can't or won't? Both. Tyler rubbed his eyes. What else did you find? Bobby's sigh carried through the phone. Theories mostly. Some think it was organized crime. Others say professional art thieves with international connections. There was one suspect, guy named Viktor Kamensky, Ukrainian national, known art thief. FBI couldn't prove anything, but he disappeared from the U.S. right after the heist. Another pause. Tyler, if you're involved in something, I'm not involved. I inherited it. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Jesus Christ, Bobby breathed. The yacht, your uncle had something to do with. I need you to not finish that sentence. Not on the phone. Not anywhere. Silence stretched long enough that Tyler checked if the call had dropped. Okay, Bobby said finally. But when you get back, we're talking. Face to face. About everything. After they hung up, Tyler sat in the gathering darkness. Outside, Alex was closing up the marina office. The older man caught Tyler's eye and nodded, a gesture that seemed to carry more weight than simple acknowledgement. Tyler climbed out of the yacht and walked to where Alex stood locking the office door. You knew, Tyler said quietly, about the paintings. Alex's expression didn't change. I knew Gerald was protecting something. Knew it was important enough he'd sacrifice everything else. That's all I needed to know. The man who came asking questions, Viktor Kamensky. I looked him up after he left. Found some interesting history. Alex met Tyler's gaze directly. He's dangerous, Tyler. The kind who doesn't leave loose ends. If he knows Gerald's dead, he'll be back. And he'll want what he thinks belongs to him. What do I do? That's not for me to say. But I'll tell you what Gerald told me once when he was drunk and philosophical. He said the hardest choices aren't between good and evil. They're between different kinds of right, each one costing something you can't afford to lose. Alex walked away, leaving Tyler alone with the Atlantic breeze and impossible decisions. Tyler returned to the yacht one more time. He sat in the captain's quarters where Gerald had spent 3 decades, looking at the same stars through the same grimy porthole. He thought about his daughters, about Sophia's art program she couldn't afford, about Emma's tutoring bills stacking up. about Jessica's custody motion and his own crushing inadequacy as a provider. $80 million. That's what Victor would offer for half the paintings. Tyler didn't need research to know criminals paid premium prices for masterpieces they could never publicly display. Enough money to solve every problem. To give his daughters everything they deserved. All he had to do was become what his uncle had spent 30 years trying not to be. Or he could turn the paintings over to authorities. Receive maybe a modest reward, $50,000 if he was lucky. Enough to buy a few months of breathing room before the financial walls closed in again. Or he could try to finish Gerald's plan. Return the art anonymously. Honor his uncle's decades of penance. And risk Victor Kamensky's wrath in the process. Tyler pulled out his phone and looked at the photo Bobby had sent. His daughters making pancakes, smiling, trusting that their father would somehow make everything okay. He thought about the security guard's daughter in the documentary. About growing up without a father because of violence and greed. He thought about Gerald's journal. He'll finish what I couldn't. The wind picked up, making the yacht creak and sway. Tyler sat in darkness, holding his dead uncle's confession, feeling the weight of choice pressing down like the ocean pressing against the hull. And he still didn't know what to do. The flight back to San Diego felt longer than the journey out. Tyler stared through the oval window at clouds that looked solid enough to walk on. His mind replaying Gerald's journal entries like a song stuck on repeat. By the time the plane touched down, he'd made and unmade a dozen decisions. Bobby was waiting at arrivals with both girls. Emma ran to Tyler first, wrapping her arms around his waist with the unself-conscious affection of 13. Sophia hung back, watching with those two observant eyes that missed nothing. "Did you sell the boat?" Emma asked. "Not yet, sweetheart. It's complicated." "Everything's always complicated," Sophia murmured, quiet enough that only Tyler heard. At Bobby's house, Maria had prepared dinner. A kindness Tyler couldn't adequately repay. The girls chattered about their weekend, about movies watched and games played, while Tyler pushed food around his plate and tried to appear present. Later, driving home through San Diego's evening traffic, Sophia finally spoke. "Mom called while you were gone." Tyler's hands tightened on the wheel. "What did she want?" "She asked about the boat. Asked if you'd mentioned anything valuable." Sophia turned to look at him. "I said no because you hadn't. But Dad, what's really going on?" "Nothing you need to worry about. That's what you always say, right before things get worse." The apartment felt smaller when they returned. Bills covered the kitchen counter, red-stamped reminders of his failures. Tyler sorted through them while the girls got ready for bed. Emma's tutoring program. Overdue by 3 weeks now. A letter from Sophia's art program requiring the deposit within 7 days or her spot would be forfeited. He was staring at the numbers, doing math that wouldn't balance no matter how he rearranged it, when his phone rang. "Jessica, we need to talk about Thursday." "What's Thursday?" "The custody hearing. You were served, Tyler. Don't pretend you forgot." He had forgotten. Or maybe he'd pushed it from his mind, one crisis too many to process. "I haven't been served anything. The process server left it with your school's main office 3 days ago. Check your mailbox." Tyler found the envelope where he'd tossed unopened mail. Emergency custody review. Jessica Reynolds, petitioner. Financial instability. Questionable judgment. A motion to grant her primary custody based on his inability to provide adequate support. "This is ridiculous," Tyler said, phone pressed to his ear. "The girls are fine. I'm handling things." "Are you?" "Emma's being dropped from her program. Sophia's missing opportunities because you can't afford deposits. And you took off to Florida chasing some fantasy inheritance instead of dealing with responsibilities here." "It wasn't a fantasy. There was a boat. There is a boat. A worthless one, from what the lawyer said. So you spent money you don't have on plane tickets for nothing." Her voice carried an edge Tyler remembered from their worst fights. "Brad thinks?" "I don't care what Brad thinks. Brad thinks the girls deserve stability. A home that isn't falling apart. Parents who can actually provide for them. I'm their parent. You and your real estate developer boyfriend don't get to decide what they deserve." Silence. When Jessica spoke again, her voice had gone cold. See you in court, Tyler. Bring your financial records. Let's see what the judge thinks about your choices. The call ended. Tyler stood in his kitchen, surrounded by unpaid bills and his ex-wife's legal threats, thinking about paintings worth $280 million sitting in a yacht 3,000 miles away. The next morning, he called in sick to school and drove to Bobby's shop. His friend was under a Subaru, but rolled out when he heard Tyler's voice. You look like hell. Feel worse. Tyler handed him coffee. We need to talk. Privately. They went to Bobby's office, a cluttered space that smelled of motor oil and old coffee. Bobby closed the door and leaned against his desk, arms crossed. I'm listening. Tyler told him everything. The hidden compartment, the paintings, Gerald's journal, Victor Kamensky, the impossible choice sitting in Florida like a ticking bomb. Bobby didn't interrupt. When Tyler finished, his friend was quiet for a long moment. Jesus Christ, Bobby finally said. You found the Boston heist paintings. Yeah. $280 million worth of stolen art. Yeah. And you didn't immediately call the FBI because I don't know what to do. Tyler's voice cracked. Gerald spent 30 years trying to return them. Died before he could. Left me instructions to finish what he started. But Bobby, Emma's being dropped from her program. Sophia's losing her art school spot. Jessica's taking me to court Thursday, and I can't even afford a decent lawyer to fight her. Bobby moved to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. Let's look at this logically. What happens if you turn the art in? They researched together. Insurance recovery rewards averaged 10% of value for major fines, but weren't guaranteed. Could be less. Could take years to process. The FBI would investigate how the paintings ended up with Tyler, dragging his family through scrutiny and suspicion. Best case, Bobby summarized. You get maybe 20 million, eventually, after lawyers and taxes and years of investigation. Worst case, I get nothing and end up accused of being Gerald's accomplice. What about this Victor guy? More searching. Victor Kamensky, international art thief. Suspected involvement in dozens of high-profile thefts. Disappeared after the 1990 heist. Interpol listed him as a person of interest in several unsolved cases involving violence. He's not asking nicely for those paintings back, Bobby said quietly. Tyler's phone buzzed. An email from an unknown sender. No subject line. He opened it and his blood went cold. A photograph. Tyler himself, entering the yacht 2 days ago. The angle suggested it was taken from across the marina. Professional. Surveillance quality. No message. Just the photo. Someone's watching, Tyler whispered. Bobby leaned over to see the screen. His face went pale. Tyler, this is serious. This is people get hurt serious. I know. You need to call the FBI. Right now. Tell them everything. And say what? My uncle was an art thief and now criminals are stalking me? While Jessica's in court Thursday arguing I'm an unfit parent. Tyler laughed bitterly. That'll go great for my custody case. Better than being dead. Tyler stared at the photograph. Someone had watched him enter the yacht. Photographed him. Sent the image as a message. We know. We're watching. We're coming. His phone buzzed again. This time, a text from an unknown number. The paintings belong to people who know their value. Your uncle understood this eventually. I hope you're smarter than he was. We should talk. No signature. None needed. Bobby read over Tyler's shoulder and swore quietly. That's him. That's Victor. Yeah. What are you going to do? Tyler looked at the bills on Bobby's desk. At the email on his phone. At his best friend's worried face. He thought about his daughters sleeping peacefully, trusting that their father would somehow keep them safe and together. I don't know, Tyler admitted, but I need to figure it out fast. Because Thursday's coming and so is Victor, and I can't fight both battles at once. Outside, San Diego traffic hummed past the shop. Inside, two friends sat in silence, staring at a photograph that proved Tyler's impossible situation had just become dangerous. The yacht sat 3,000 miles away, but the threat was already here. Agent Carla Ruiz appeared at Jefferson High during Tyler's third period class. The principal pulled him from teaching Revolutionary War causes, her expression apologetic but firm. FBI, she whispered. My office. Carla Ruiz was younger than Tyler expected. Mid-40s, sharp-eyed, dressed in a navy suit that screamed federal authority. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. Mr. Coleman, I'm investigating your Uncle Gerald Sawyer's estate, specifically items that may have been aboard his yacht. Tyler's throat went dry. I inherited a boat, that's all. You spent 2 days in Florida. What did you find? Personal effects, old books, nothing valuable. Carla's gaze never wavered. Gerald Sawyer was a person of interest in the 1990 Boston Museum heist. His death triggered case review. If you found something, protecting yourself means telling me now. There's nothing to tell. She placed a business card on the desk between them. People have died over those paintings, Mr. Coleman. Don't become another casualty. That evening, Nina Castellano knocked on Tyler's apartment door. Sleek, professional, carrying a leather portfolio like a weapon. I represent the insurance consortium that paid out after the Boston heist, she said, inviting herself inside. We're entitled to recovered art. But I'm not interested in bureaucracy. I want the truth about fraud in the original claim. I don't know what you're talking about. Nina opened her portfolio, revealing photographs. Victor Kamensky, original heist crew, arrived in Miami 2 weeks ago. She met Tyler's eyes. He's looking for his retirement fund, and he's very good at finding things. What do you want? Partnership. Help me prove the insurance fraud. I'll ensure you get maximum legal reward. Protection for your daughters. Witness security if needed. Tyler stared at Victor's photograph. Cultured, dangerous, patient. Think about it, Nina said, leaving her card. But don't think too long. Victor doesn't wait forever. After she left, Tyler stood alone, caught between the FBI's official demands, an insurance investigator's ambiguous offer, and a criminal's unspoken threat. Thursday's custody hearing loomed. Victor was coming, and Tyler still had no idea whom to trust. Tyler was deleting his browser history when Sophia walked into the living room. Too late, he realized his mistake. The computer's recently closed tabs still glowed on the screen behind him. Boston Museum Heist 1990, Sophia read aloud. Gerald Sawyer FBI suspect. Stolen masterpieces recovery reward. She crossed her arms. Dad, what the hell is going on? Tyler's mind raced through lies, deflections, half-truths. But Sophia's expression, hurt mixing with anger, stopped him. She deserved better than the secrets that had poisoned his own family. Sit down, he said quietly. He told her everything. The hidden compartment, the paintings, Gerald's journal, Victor's photograph, the FBI agent and insurance investigator circling like sharks. Sophia listened without interrupting, her face cycling through shock, disbelief, and something Tyler couldn't quite identify. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. How much are they worth? 280 million, give or take. And you're trying to decide what to do with them. I'm trying to figure out how to not destroy our lives. Sophia stood, pacing the small living room. Tyler braced for fear, for moral outrage, for her to demand he call the police immediately. Instead, she grabbed Gerald's journal from where Tyler had hidden it in his desk drawer. Can I read this? Sophia, Dad, I'm not a kid. I know about the custody hearing. I know we're broke. I know Mom thinks we'd be better off with her and Brad. She met his eyes. And I know you're drowning trying to do the right thing. So let me help. Over the next hour, Sophia read Gerald's entries with the analytical attention she brought to AP literature essays. Tyler watched his daughter transform from teenager to partner, seeing patterns he'd missed. Here, she said, pointing to a passage. Uncle Gerald mentions 'em. R. At the gardener and T.L. willing to facilitate anonymous returns. He wasn't just hiding the art. He was building a network. A network for what? For returning the paintings without getting caught. Look, he references museum contacts, ethical dealers, even a journalist. It's incomplete, but Dad, this could work. We could finish what he started. Sophia, this isn't some school project. I know, but keeping the art makes you a criminal. Turning it in might get you arrested for Gerald's crimes. And giving it to Victor? She shook her head. That's not who we are. But anonymous restitution, that's actually possible. Tyler's phone buzzed. Bobby. Someone came to the shop, his friend said without preamble. European accent. Asked about you. Said he was an old friend of Gerald's. Tyler, he knew things. Your schedule. Where the girls go to school. The room tilted. What did you tell him? Nothing. But he left a message. Said to tell you time is running out. That cooperation is easier than confrontation. After hanging up, Tyler looked at his daughter. She'd heard everything. We need to go back to Florida, Sophia said. Move the paintings somewhere safer. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Dad, you need help. I understand art. I can read Gerald's notes about museum contacts. And you can't leave me and Emma here if Victor's people know where we live. She was right. Tyler hated that she was right. Emma stays with Bobby. You come with me. But Sophia, if this gets dangerous, then we'll handle it together. Tyler saw his mother in Sophia's determined expression. Saw Gerald's stubborn refusal to give up. Maybe that was the real inheritance. Not paintings or money, but the family trait of standing firm when everything pushed you to break. Okay, he said. We leave tomorrow, but you follow my lead. No arguments. Sophia nodded, already pulling up flight options on her phone. Outside, San Diego's evening traffic hummed past their apartment. Inside, father and daughter planned their return to Florida, to a yacht filled with stolen beauty, to decisions that would define them both. Tyler thought about Gerald's final journal entry. He'll finish what I couldn't. Maybe not alone. Maybe with the next generation standing beside him, carrying forward the complicated legacy of choices made and chances at redemption. The Florida heat hit them like a wall when they stepped off the plane. Sophia had barely spoken during the flight, reading Gerald's journal with the intensity she usually reserved for exam prep. Tyler watched his daughter absorb his uncle's confessions, seeing her process the weight of inherited choices. Alex was waiting at the marina, his expression grim. We need to talk. Now. He pulled Tyler aside while Sophia examined the yacht. Victor's people have been here. 3 of them 2 days ago. Professional surveillance. They're watching the marina. Tyler's stomach dropped. Are they here now? Not that I can see. But I've got military training. I recognize an operation when I see one. They're waiting for something. Probably for you to make a move. Alex's jaw tightened. Gerald told me everything when he was dying. Made me promise to help if you needed it. So I'm asking, what's your plan? Move the paintings tonight. Get them somewhere secure while we figure out the restitution plan. Then we do it smart. I've got gear, thermal blankets to block heat signatures, a boat we can use for water approach. Make it look like you're just sorting through Gerald's things. They spent the afternoon preparing. Sophia proved surprisingly capable, helping Tyler document each painting with her phone, cross-referencing Gerald's notes about museum contacts. Her art history knowledge identified details Tyler had missed, provenance marks, restoration attempts, clues about the work's journeys. M.R. At the Gardner, that's probably Michael Romano, Sophia said, scrolling through museum staff listings. He's been the head curator since 2015, and T.L. could be Teresa Lopez, the journalist who wrote that series on art restitution ethics. Tyler stared at his daughter. How do you know this? I researched it on the flight. Dad, if we're doing this, we need to know everything Uncle Gerald knew. As sunset painted the sky orange, Nina Castellano appeared on the dock. Tyler hadn't heard her approach. She moved with the silent purpose of someone comfortable operating in shadows. Planning something tonight? she asked, stepping onto the yacht uninvited. Tyler positioned himself between her and Sophia. We're sorting possessions. Don't lie to me, Tyler. I've been tracking you. I know Victor's people are watching. I know you found the paintings. She pulled out her phone, showing surveillance photos. And I know that if Victor moves first, your family becomes collateral damage. What do you want? I want what I've always wanted. Proof of the insurance fraud and those paintings recovered. Work with me. Let me facilitate the return through official channels. I can protect you. Can you? Tyler challenged. Or will you just use us to advance your career while Victor's people? Alex's urgent whistle cut through the argument. Multiple vehicles were pulling into the marina parking lot. Expensive SUVs. Tinted windows. Victor Kamensky emerged from the lead vehicle, tall, distinguished, wearing a linen suit that probably cost more than Tyler's monthly salary. Four men flanked him, their postures screaming professional muscle. Mr. Coleman, Victor called pleasantly, his accent cultured and precise. I believe we have business to discuss. Tyler's hand found Sophia's shoulder, pulling her behind him. Nina moved to the yacht's rail, her expression calculating. Victor approached slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. But his eyes held the cold patience of a predator who'd waited 30 years for this moment. Your uncle was a complicated man. Brilliant, principled, deeply foolish. He took something that belonged to all of us. Now he's gone, and you've inherited his burden. Victor smiled. I'm here to relieve you of it. I don't know what you're talking about. Please. Gerald's journals. The paintings. I know they're here. I've known for weeks. Victor gestured around the marina. This has been inevitable since the moment you received that inheritance letter. So let's discuss this like reasonable men. Sirens split the air. FBI vehicles screeched into the parking lot. Carla Ruiz emerged with a tactical team, weapons drawn. Victor Kamensky, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit. Victor's men moved. So did the FBI. The marina exploded into chaos. Shouting, tactical positioning, the metallic click of weapons being readied. Tyler grabbed Sophia, pulling her down behind the yacht's cabin wall. Nina had vanished somewhere in the confusion. Alex appeared with a life vest, pressing it into Sophia's hands. If shooting starts, you go into the water, he ordered. Swim to the far dock. Don't look back. In the center of the standoff, Victor stood calmly, hands raised, that patient smile never wavering. Agent Ruiz, he called. Always a pleasure. But I'm simply visiting an old friend's estate. Hardly a crime. You're a wanted international criminal. Alleged. Never proven. Victor's eyes found Tyler. And Mr. Coleman invited me here. Didn't you, Tyler? To discuss his uncle's estate? Every weapon, every eye turned toward the yacht. Toward Tyler, caught between the FBI, a criminal, an insurance investigator with unclear loyalties, and his daughter, brilliant, brave Sophia, who shouldn't be here, who deserved better than her father's impossible inheritance. The Florida sun hung low, painting everything in blood-orange light. And Tyler realized that the moment of choice had arrived not in careful deliberation but in chaos, with guns drawn and his daughter's life potentially in the balance. Whatever he decided in the next 60 seconds would determine everything. Time seemed to fracture. Tyler stood on the yacht's deck, caught in the crossfire of too many agendas, too many weapons, too many people who wanted something from him. Sophia pressed against his side, her breathing quick and shallow. Alex had positioned himself protectively nearby, his military instincts calculating angles and exit strategies. Mr. Coleman, Carla Ruiz called, her weapon still trained on Victor's men. Step away from the yacht. Bring your daughter. You're not in danger from us. Victor laughed, a sound like expensive whiskey being poured. Agent Ruiz promises safety while pointing guns at everyone. How reassuring. His eyes never left Tyler. I'm offering something simpler. Half the collection's value. $80 million. Enough to solve every problem you have. Your daughter's education. Your custody battle. Your crushing, humiliating poverty. Gone. All of it. The number hung in the humid air. 80 million. Tyler's brain couldn't even process that much money. He thought about Emma's tutoring bills, Sophia's art program, the judge who'd decide Thursday whether he was fit to parent his own children. "Don't listen to him," Nina said, emerging from the cabin behind Tyler. She'd been inside the whole time, listening, calculating. "I can get you legitimate reward money. 20, maybe 30 million. Legal. Protected. You testify about the insurance fraud. I make sure you and your daughters have new identities if needed. Witness protection. Safety." "Safety," Victor repeated mockingly. "From whom? I'm a businessman, not a monster. Your uncle and I had a disagreement 30 years ago. He took something we'd all stolen together. I simply want what's mine. No violence necessary if we're all reasonable." Carla's voice cut through. "Tyler, those paintings belong in museums. They were stolen from the public. People died in that heist. Whatever choice you make, it needs to be the right one. I'll advocate for leniency if you cooperate. But this ends now. Tonight. 3 offers. 3 different futures." Tyler's head spun with calculations and consequences. Sophia tugged his sleeve. "Dad, the journal." She'd been holding it the entire time, pressed against her chest like armor. Now she opened it to the final pages, the ones Tyler had only skimmed, the water-damaged sections he'd thought were illegible. But Sophia had been careful, patient. She'd separated the pages on the flight, photographed them, enhanced the faded ink with filters. Gerald's final plan emerged in fragmented clarity. "Contact M.R. at Gardner. He understands." Anonymous return through T.L.'s article. Credit to benefactor honoring Gerald Sawyer's redemption. Each piece to specific museum. Vermeer to Isabella Stewart Gardner. Monet to MFA Boston. Caravaggio to... The list continued. Specific paintings to specific institutions. Not random. Intentional. Gerald had researched where each piece belonged, who would honor its return, how to make restitution matter more than punishment. "Uncle Gerald couldn't finish his redemption," Sophia said quietly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "But we can finish it for him." Tyler looked at his daughter, 16 years old, standing in the middle of an armed standoff, offering not compromise but principle. When had she become braver than him? He thought about Gerald's journal. 30 years of penance. 30 years of wanting to do right but being paralyzed by fear. 30 years that ended with cancer and unfinished business. Tyler thought about the security guard's daughter in the documentary, growing up without a father because of greed and violence. He thought about what kind of man he wanted to be, what kind of father, what legacy he'd leave his daughters, not in money but in the example of choices made under impossible pressure. "Agent Ruiz," Tyler called, his voice steadier than he felt. "I'll surrender the paintings, but only to you, and only under conditions." Victor's expression hardened. "Tyler, think carefully." "I have thought carefully. For days. And I'm done thinking." Tyler turned to face Carla directly. "The paintings go back exactly as my uncle planned. Specific museums. Anonymous benefactor in honor of Gerald Sawyer. No criminal charges against his memory. He spent 30 years protecting these works. That should count for something." "And the reward?" Nina pressed. "I don't want it. Cover my legal expenses for the custody case. That's all. The art belongs to the public. It should go back to the public." Sophia's hand found his, squeezed once. Pride and fear and love all compressed into that single gesture. Carla lowered her weapon slightly. That's not how this usually works. I don't care how it usually works. Those are my terms. Take them or I drop every painting into the Atlantic right now." Tyler's voice carried a conviction he'd never heard in himself before. "Because I'd rather destroy them than let them fund anyone's retirement, criminal or legitimate. Their art, their history, they belong where people can see them, where they matter." Victor's patient smile finally cracked. "You're throwing away $80 million. No, I'm refusing to become what killed my uncle." He stole these paintings and it destroyed him. I won't let them destroy me too. Your daughters will grow up knowing their father chose principle over pragmatism. That's worth more than any amount of money you could offer. For a long moment, nobody moved. FBI agents held position. Victor's men waited for orders. Nina calculated angles. And Carla Ruiz studied Tyler with an expression that might have been respect. All right, Carla said finally. We do it your way. But Tyler, this is going to be complicated. Investigations, paperwork, months of scrutiny. I know. And you get nothing except legal fees covered. I know. Your ex-wife is going to use this. Let her. At least I'll be able to look my daughters in the eye and tell them I did the right thing. Tyler glanced at Sophia. That I finished what my uncle started. That redemption is possible even for people who make terrible choices, if they're willing to pay the price. Victor shook his head slowly. You've chosen poverty over pragmatism. I hope your principles keep your daughters warm, Mr. Coleman. He signaled his men. We're leaving. For now. You're not going anywhere, Carla said, gesturing to her team. Victor Kamensky, you're under arrest for international art theft, conspiracy to. But Victor was already moving, his men providing cover as they retreated toward the vehicles. The FBI pursued but couldn't fire. Too many civilians, too much risk. Within seconds, engines roared and Victor's convoy disappeared into Key West traffic. Carla swore creatively, then turned back to Tyler. You just made a very dangerous enemy. I made a choice. There's a difference. Alex stepped forward. I'll help extract the paintings, and I'll testify about what Gerald told me, about his intentions, his plans for restitution. Nina approached Tyler, her expression unreadable. You're either the most honest man I've ever met or the biggest fool. I'm not sure which. Can't it be both? She almost smiled. I'll coordinate with the insurance consortium. Make sure Gerald's story gets told right. It won't get me the career boost I wanted, but... She shrugged. Sometimes doing right matters more than doing well. As the FBI began securing the yacht and calling in specialists to extract the paintings, Tyler sat on the dock with Sophia. The Florida sun had finally set, leaving them in purple twilight. Are you scared? Sophia asked. Terrified. Victor's still out there. The custody hearing is in 3 days. We're still broke. And I just turned down $80 million. But you did the right thing. Did I? Or did I just choose a different kind of failure? Sophia leaned her head against his shoulder. Uncle Gerald wrote that you'd know what to do. He was right. You knew. You just had to find the courage to do it. Tyler watched FBI agents carefully removing paintings from the yacht's hidden compartment. Masterpieces emerging into light after 30 years in darkness. Going home. Being restored to the world that had mourned their loss. His phone buzzed. Bobby, tell me you didn't do anything stupid. I did exactly what I needed to do. A pause. Then, you gave them up, didn't you? The paintings. Yeah. All of them. Every single one. Bobby laughed. Surprised and somehow proud. You're an idiot, you know that? So I've been told. But you're my idiot. And brother, I'm buying you the biggest beer in California when you get home. Tyler ended the call and looked at his daughter. At the yacht where Gerald had spent 3 decades in purgatory. At the FBI agents handling pieces of stolen beauty with reverent care. He'd made his choice. Not the easy one. Not the profitable one. But the one he could live with. The one that honored Gerald's unfinished redemption and maybe started Tyler's own. Victor was still out there. The custody hearing loomed. Financial problems remained unsolved. But Tyler had found something worth more than $280 million. He'd found himself again. Victor Kamensky never returned to the Florida Keys. 6 weeks after the standoff, Carla Ruiz informed Tyler that Interpol had tracked him to Montenegro, where he died of complications from the cancer that had driven his final, desperate attempt to reclaim the paintings. He chose poorly too, Carla said. Just differently than you. The paintings were authenticated within days. Every piece genuine, representing one of the greatest recoveries in art crime history. Tyler cooperated fully with investigations, spending hours answering questions, providing Gerald's journal, explaining his uncle's decades-long burden. No charges were filed. The FBI determined Gerald had acted alone in hiding the art, protecting it from more violent thieves. Nina Castellano kept her word. She documented the insurance fraud museum insiders who'd cooperated with the original theft, planning to share in the payout. Her exposé made national news. The insurance consortium quietly settled Tyler's legal fees for the custody case. Grateful for his cooperation and eager to avoid further scandal, the custody hearing happened on a Thursday in late spring. Jessica's lawyer presented financial records, documented late payments, evidence of instability. Then Carla Ruiz took the stand as a character witness. Unprecedented, but she'd insisted. Mr. Coleman had the opportunity to profit from stolen art, she testified. $80 million offered by criminals. Legitimate rewards from insurance companies. He refused everything except coverage for these very legal fees. He chose to honor his uncle's wish for redemption over his own financial gain. That's the kind of integrity children should witness. The judge ruled in Tyler's favor. Primary custody maintained. Jessica looked stunned. Afterward, in the courthouse hallway, she approached Tyler hesitantly. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "Brad was wrong. What you did, choosing principle over money, that's who you've always been. I'd forgotten." She paused. "The girls are lucky to have you. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was something like respect." 3 months later, Tyler and Sophia attended the first exhibition at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. The Vermeer hung in its original location, a small plaque reading, "Returned through anonymous benefactor in honor of Gerald Sawyer, 1952 to 2024. May his journey toward redemption inspire others." Carla was there with an elderly man. Her grandfather, the veteran whose painting had been among the stolen works. He wept before his own creation, finally recovered. Carla caught Tyler's eye across the gallery and nodded once. Gratitude, recognition, understanding. Father Miguel found Tyler afterward, standing before a Monet that glowed with captured light. "Doing the right thing doesn't always solve our problems," the priest said gently, "but it always reveals who we are." Tyler thought about that often in the months that followed. His life didn't transform. He still taught history to distracted sophomores. Still struggled with bills, though Bobby's occasional help and fewer legal fees eased the pressure. Still drove a Honda with a check engine light. But something fundamental had shifted. Sophia attended her art program on scholarship, a grant established by the Gardner Museum specifically for students interested in art, crime, and restitution. She'd written her application essay about her great-uncle's 30-year penance and her father's choice to finish what he'd started. Emma remained beautifully oblivious to how close they'd come to disaster, her faith in her father absolute and uncomplicated. Bobby still joked that Tyler was the only person ever to throw away $280 million and be happier for it. And maybe he was right. 6 months after the painting's return, Tyler took his daughters to the beach. They walked the shoreline at sunset, Emma collecting shells while Sophia photographed the light on water with an artist's eye. "Do you ever regret it?" Sophia asked. "Giving them up?" Tyler watched Emma run toward them, arms full of treasures worth nothing to anyone but her. "No," he said honestly. "Gerald spent 30 years rich in stolen art and poor in everything that mattered. I'd rather be poor in money and rich in this." He gestured at his daughters, at the ocean, at the simple peace of an evening with people he loved. That night, Tyler opened Gerald's journal one final time. On the last page, in his uncle's careful handwriting, was a quote Tyler hadn't noticed before. "True wealth is not measured in what we possess, but in what we're willing to sacrifice for those who come after us. The only inheritance worth leaving is the example of choosing right over easy, principle over profit, redemption over resignation." May whoever reads this understand. It's never too late to become who you were meant to be. Tyler closed the journal and placed it carefully on his shelf, next to the photograph of his mother and Gerald as children on a beach, smiling and innocent and still believing the world was simple. He'd finished his uncle's redemption, and in doing so had found his own. The paintings hung in museums now returned to the world. Gerald's story had been told, not as a criminal's tale but as a flawed man's long journey toward doing right. And Tyler had learned what his uncle spent 30 years discovering. That the hardest legacies to carry are the ones that force us to choose who we want to be when everything pushes us to compromise. Outside, San Diego's night settled over the city. Inside, Tyler's daughters slept peacefully, dreaming their own futures, carrying forward the only inheritance that truly mattered. Integrity passed from generation to generation, tested and proven and held sacred despite the cost. Tyler thought of Gerald and hoped his uncle had found peace. And he knew, with quiet certainty, that he'd made the choice his mother would have wanted, that his daughters would remember, that defined him not by his bank account but by his character. Poor in dollars, rich in everything that mattered, finally, irrevocably, free. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.